Euzubillahimineşşeytanirracim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Elhamdülillahi Rabbil alemin. Ve salatu ve selamu ala Resulina Muhammedin ve ala alihi ve sahbihi ecma'in. Radiyallahu anna ve ankum ve an kâfetil müminin. Rabbena atina min ledunke rahmeten ve heyyi lena min emrina raşeda. Inshallah, we will continue reading the chapter on sabr, patience, endurance, forbearing from Imam Ghazali's Ihya Ulumuddin. Today, we will be reading the section on بيان انقسام الصبر بحسب اختلاف القوة والضعف. Divisions of sabr according to its power and weakness. So sabr is classified, divided into subcategories depending on its strength and weakness. In this chapter we will be reading this inshallah ta'ala. علم أن باعث الدين بالإضافة إلى باعث الهوى له ثلاثة أحوال. So sabr, if you remember, is the relationship between religious motive vis-a-vis the motive coming from excessive desires. So we have different motives in our hearts. Some of them originate from piety, religion, and morality, but some of them originate from hedonism, excessive desires and passions in our hearts. And Ghazali says that this relationship has three states. There are three states of this relationship between ba'ith al-din and ba'ith al-hawa. أحدها, so the first state of the relationship between the religious motivation and the motivation from hedonistic desires, أن يقهر داعي الهوى فلا تبقى له قوة المنازع. So in this type or in this state, the religious motive is completely subjugated, subdued, and it has no power to resist or go against the hedonistic desires. So that's one state, one type of the relationship between ba'ith al-din and ba'ith al-hawa. So that means da'i al-hawa, I'm sorry, I think I confused. So the hedonistic motives are completely defeated and put under the control of the religious motives in that case. And hedonistic motives has no power to go against the religious motives. وَيُتَوَصَّلُ إِلَيْهِ بِدَوَامِ الصَّبْرِ. So how one can reach to this state in which hedonistic motives are completely subdued and put under the control of the religious motives, بِدَوَامِ الصَّبْرِ. One can reach to this level through continuous patience, through continuous endurance. وَعِنْدَ هَذَا يُقَالُ مَنْ صَبَرَ زَفَرَ. So the one who reaches to this level, it is said about him, مَنْ صَبَرَ زَفَرَ. Whoever exercises patience will triumph at the end. So triumph comes from sabr. وَالْوَاصِلُونَ إِلَى هَذِهِ الرُّتْبَةِ هُمُ الْأَقَلُّونَ. But only a very limited number of people can reach to this level. فَلَا جَرَمَ هُمُ الصِّدِّيقُونَ الْمُقَرَّبُونَ. So they are the true believers and they are the ones who are really close to Allah Ta'ala. الَّذِينَ قَالُوا رَبُّنَا اللَّهُ ثُمَّ اسْتَقَامُوا. So they are the ones who declared that our Lord is Allah and then followed the straight path. فهؤلاء لازموا الطريق المستقيم. So they always continued, following the straight path. واستووا على الصراط القويم, and they always walked straight on the straight path. So they have never gone astray. They have never deviated from the straight path. واطمأنت نفوسهم على مقتضى بواعث الدين, and they gained happiness in accordance with the religious motivations coming from their heart. By following religious motivations from their hearts, they gained happiness. وَإِيَّاهُمْ يُنَادِي الْمُنَادِي. So in the hereafter, they will be called as follows: يَا أَيُّهَا النَّفْسُ الْمُطْمَئِنَّةُ, or the content self, or the content person, the happy person. ارجعي إلى ربك راضية مرضية. Turn back, to your Lord, pleased and pleasing, because that kind of person, he will be himself pleased, happy, content, but at the same time he will be pleasing to Allah Ta'ala. الحالة الثانية, so this is the first state of the relationship, between باعث الدين and باعث الهوى, in which باعث الهوى has no say, is completely under the control of the باعث الدين. And the second state, أن تغلب دواعي الهوى وتسقط بالكلية منازعة باعث الدين. So in that state, the hedonistic motives triumph over the religious motives, and religious motives have no power to resist against hedonistic desires. It's completely defeated, subdued, and put under the control of the hedonistic desires. فيسلم نفسه إلى جند الشياطين. The person in that state, he surrenders himself to the soldiers of the shaitan. ولا يجاهد, and he does not resist against the devils, against the satanic motives and desires, coming in his heart. Why? ليأسه من المجاهدة, because he is completely hopeless, to win that struggle. He thinks there is no way for him, to resist these satanic motives, desires in himself. So he completely surrenders himself to them. وَأَوْلَا هُمُ الْغَافِلُونَ. They are the negligent ones. وَهُمُ الْأَكْثَرُونَ. They constitute the majority of people. The majority of people, they are al-ghafilun, negligent. They neglect this struggle. They surrender themselves to the satanic desires. وَهُمُ الَّذِينَ إِسْتَرَقَتْهُمْ شَهَوَاتُهُمْ. Their desires enslave them. وَغَلَبَتْ عَلَيْهِمْ شِقْوَتُهُمْ. And their rebel against Allah Ta'ala, and their sins took over them, defeated them. They are defeated by their sins. فحكموا أعداء الله في قلوبهم التي هي سر من أسرار الله تعالى. فحكموا, they made authority. أعداء الله في قلوبهم, the enemies of Allah. They made enemies of Allah authority in their hearts. They adopted them as rulers, authorities in their hearts. But those things that they made the rulers or the authorities in their heart, They are in fact enemies of Allah Ta'ala. Uh, and this is a secret from the secrets of Allah Ta'ala, like وَأَمْرٌ مِّنْ أُمُورِ اللَّهِ. And also it is an action from the actions of Allah Ta'ala. So like how Allah Ta'ala allows a person to make Allah's enemies authorities in his heart. So this is a secret from the secrets of Allah Ta'ala. He says, وَإِلَيْهِمُ الْإِشَارَةُ بِقَوْلِهِ تَعَالَى. And Allah Ta'ala, talks about them in the following verse. وَلَوْ شِئْنَا لَأَتَيْنَا كُلَّ نَفْسٍ هُدَاهَا وَلَكِنْ حَقَّ الْقَوْلُ مِنِّي لَأَمْلَأَنَّ جَهَنَّمَ مِنَ الْجَنَّةِ وَالنَّاسِ أَجْمَعِينَ. وَلَوْ شِئْنَا, if we wished, says Allah Ta'ala, لَأَتَيْنَا كُلَّ نَفْسٍ هُدَاهَا. We would give to every person right guidance. If we wished, we would give everyone right guidance. وَلَكِنْ حَقَّ الْقَوْلِ. But, he says, my words is realized. My words are true. لَأَمْلَأَنَّ جَهَنَّمَ مِنَ الْجَنَّةِ وَالنَّاسِ أَجْمَعِينَ. That the hellfire will be filled, and the paradise will be filled by people. So this is the will of Allah Ta'ala. This is one of the secrets of Allah Ta'ala that's beyond really human comprehension. Why did Allah Ta'ala give free will to human beings to the extent that they make the enemies of Allah kings in their hearts, authorities in their hearts, and follow those enemies of Allah in their hearts and commit sins and rebel the will of Allah Ta'ala. So this is what Allah Ta'ala wanted to do by giving free will to people. وَهَؤُلَاء هُمُ الَّذِينَ اشْتَرَوُا الْحَيَاةَ الدُّنْيَا بِالْآخِرَةِ. So these people are the ones who exchanged the pleasures of this world with the pleasures of the hereafter. So they sold their hereafter to buy this world. فَخَسْرَتْ صَفْقَتُهُمْ. But they had a very bad bargain. They lost in this bargain, because what they sold in exchange of this world is something really big and precious, and what they got is nothing compared to what they sacrificed. وَقِيلَ لِمَنْ قَصَدَ إِرْشَادَهُمْ. And it is said to those who try to teach them and guide them, فأعرض عمن تولى عن ذكرنا ولم يرد إلا الحياة الدنيا. So turn away from those who turned away from remembering me. ولم يرد إلا الحياة الدنيا. They don't want anything except this low life, this mundane life. This is their goal. This is their only goal, to gain this mundane life, and they have nothing beyond that. وَذَلِكَ مَبْلَغُهُم مِّنَ الْعِلْمِ. This is the highest level their knowledge can reach. So the highest level, the highest extent their knowledge can reach is this mundane life, al-hayat al-dunya. They cannot go beyond this, and they worship this world, and they have nothing in mind other than gaining this world, and they turn away from remembering Allah Ta'ala. So no preaching, no teaching will influence them, because they are blindly following this world. And so they are so reductionist. They don't care about other levels of reality. They focus exclusively on al-hayat ad-dunya, the mundane life, the immediate pleasures, and they reject other levels of existence, in particular, the divine level of existence, and also the hereafter. They don't care about all these things. They are so materialist. They focus only on this world, and this is the extent of their knowledge. So this reminds me the positivists and the materialists in our time. Their knowledge is limited only with the material world, and they have no idea what's behind. وهذه الحالة علامتها اليأس والقنوط والغرور بالأماني. So what's the symptom or the sign of someone who is in that state? It is al-ya's, al-kunud, al-ghurur bil-amani. It's hopelessness. It's giving up, and also illusion with wishes. So they completely give up. They have hopeless mentality that they cannot become, powerful enough to resist, their animal desires. And they have illusions that they are on the right path. They have illusions that after they die, they go to paradise. So they have these kind of illusions. So this is what's called al-amani. Al-amani means illusionary wishes, not grounded on reality. وهو غاية الحمق. So this is the highest level of stupidity, highest level of irrationality. But those materialists, those atheists, they present themselves as rational, but in reality, they are the most irrational people. كما قال صلى الله عليه وسلم, and Rasulullah عليه الصلاة والسلام said, الكيس من دان نفسه وعمل لما بعد الموت. The intelligent person is the one who controls his desires and works for the hereafter, the life after death. So that's the intelligent one. The materialist one, the atheist one, who is working only for this world, is not the intelligent one. The intelligent one is the one who controls his desires and works for the hereafter, the eternal life to come. والأحمق من أتبع نفسه هواها وتمنى على الله. And the irrational one, the stupid one, is the one who makes himself follow his hedonistic desires, pleasures. وتمنى على الله, and he has illusionary wishes from Allah Ta'ala. Although he's going against the will of Allah Ta'ala, not following his religion, but he has illusionary wishes from Allah Ta'ala. He thinks he will go to paradise in the hereafter as well. Like he will enjoy this world. He will go against the will of Allah Ta'ala in this world, but at the same time, he will go to paradise in the hereafter. So he has this kind of illusionary wish. So in another hadith, instead of ahmaq, the word al-ajiz is used. Al-ajiz means powerless. Powerless. Why? The opposite of intelligent and rational is powerless, because the rational person, the intelligent person, has the power to subdue his desires and put them under the control of his reason. But the person who cannot win this struggle, he is al-ajiz. He cannot control his desires. He cannot overcome his desires. He let himself to be controlled by his desires. That's why irrationality is powerlessness. Irrationality means not winning the fight against the hedonistic desires and letting yourself to be controlled by your desires. This is the weakness. That's why Rasulullah used al-ajiz instead of ahmaq, in another narration of the same hadith. وَصَاحِبُ هَذِهِ الْحَالَةِ إِذَا وَعِزَ. The person who is at this state, when he is preached or reminded or taught, قال أنا مشتاق إلى التوبة ولكنها قد تعذرت علي فلست أطمع فيها. So if you tell him, oh, you have so many mistakes, you should correct yourself, make tawbah, he says, oh, I also long for repentance. I also want to make tawbah. ولكنها قد تعذرت علي. But it's so difficult for me to repent from my sins and to correct myself, to reform myself. فلست أطمع فيها. This is the reason why I gave it up. So this is what he says when you speak to him, remind him, try to teach him and guide him. أو لم يكن مشتاقا إلى التوبة. Or he does not look for making tawbah. ولكن قال, instead he says, إن الله غفور رحيم كريم فلا حاجة بي إلى توبتي. Allah is most forgiving, most compassionate, most generous. So I don't need to make tawbah. He'll forgive me anyway. So this is how he fools himself. وهذا المسكين قد صار عقله رقيقا لشهوته. This miserable person, he let his intelligence, reason, to become slave of his desires. فلا يستعمل عقله إلا في استنباط دقائق الحيل التي بها يتوصل إلى قضاء شهوته. He does not use his reason except in the service of his desires, to come up with solutions to satisfy his desires more and more. So this is how he uses his reason. So he puts his reason in the service of his passions and desires. And this is what David Hume said in one of his writings. He said the only role reason has is to serve passions, desires of human beings and nothing else. So Imam Ghazali describes this hedonistic mentality. The hedonists, they are also rational people, but they use their reason, to come up more solutions or like ways of satisfying their desires more and more. فقد صار عقله في يد شهوته. So his reason is in the control of his desires. So he put the control of his reason in the hands of his desires. So Imam Ghazali here makes a comparison. He says this is similar to كمسلم أسير في أيدي الكفار. So this is similar to a Muslim who is a captive in the hands of the non-believers. So a Muslim is captured by non-Muslims, and turned into a captive or a slave. فهم يستسخرونه في رعاية الخنازير وحفظ الخمور وحملها. So they employ him in taking care of the pigs, donkeys, and so they put him in the use of this kind of very mean jobs. ومحله عند الله تعالى محل من يقهر مسلما ويسلمه إلى الكفار ويجعله أسيرا عنده. So the state of that person, who puts himself, his reason in the service of his hedonistic desires, is similar to somebody who takes a Muslim and gives him to non-believers so that they make him a captive. لأن تفاحش جنايته سببه أنه سخر ما كان حقه أن لا يستسخره وسلط ما حقه أن يتسلط عليه. So the ugliness of his sin, the root cause behind it, that he made his reason in the service of his hedonistic desires. So he subdued something which is not supposed to be subdued. So akal, reason, is not supposed to be subdued to desires. Akal was supposed to be the king, the ruler, the authority in the heart, but that person, captured the akal, the reason, and put it in the service of those hedonistic desires. وَسَلَّطَ مَا حَقُّهُ أَنْ يُتَسَلَّطَ عَلَيْهِ. And he made something an authority, but this was not supposed to be an authority. It was supposed to be something to be controlled. So he made something that was supposed to be controlled an authority, and he made something that was supposed to be an authority a subject. So he just reversed the structure, the order, the hierarchy in the heart. وإنما, let's move on. وإنما استحق المسلم أن يكون متسلطا لما فيه من معرفة الله تعالى وباح الدين. In contrast, a Muslim should be the ruler. Why? Because he has knowledge of Allah Ta'ala, and also the motive of religious motive. So in the heart of the Muslim, the faith in Allah Ta'ala and also religious motives should be the kings or the rulers or the authorities, not the desires. So a Muslim should be controlled by Ma'rifatullah and by Ma'rifuddin, religious motive and the knowledge of Allah Ta'ala. وإنما استحق الكافر أن يكون متسلطا عليه لما فيه من الجهل بالدين وباعث الشياطين. But those who go against the will of Allah Ta'ala, the non-believers, they should be the ones who are supposed to be controlled, because they have no knowledge about the true religion and they follow the satanic motivations. وحق المسلم على نفسه أوجب من حق غيره عليه. So this is a very, very important statement, that the rights of a Muslim over himself are more important than the rights of the others on him. So here we have two types of rights. Rights of one's self on his own self, and then rights of others on yourself. So which one is more important? The rights of yourself on yourself, or the rights of others on yourself? Which one is more important? So Imam Ghazali says, وَحَقُّ الْمُسْلِمِ عَلَى نَفْسِهِ, rights of one's own self, on him, أوجب من حق غيره عليه, are more important, more required, more mandatory, more obligatory than the rights of the others on him. So you give priority, to rights of yourself on yourself over the rights of others on you. So this is very interesting philosophy here, and we can talk more about this. فمهما سخر المعنى الشريف الذي هو من حزب الله وجند الملائكة للمعنى الخسيس الذي هو من حزب الشياطين المبعدين عن الله تعالى كان كمن أرق مسلما لكافرين. So this is again part of the inner politics, the inner government, inner management, of one's inner feelings, faculties, conflicting desires and motives. So Imam Ghazali says, giving power, to these evil desires in one's heart is like, surrendering one Muslim to a non-believer. بل هو كمن قصد الملك المنعم عليه فأخذ أعز أولاده وسلمه إلى أبغض أعدائه. Furthermore, this is even worse. This is comparable to someone, who attacks a king who was so generous to him, who bestowed gifts to him, and he takes his children, and surrenders these children to his worst enemies. So this is, making your akal, your reason, subdued to your nafs, and shaitan is something like this. Allah is the king, so he bestowed many gifts to you. He also created akal, but you are taking akal and making him subject to the shaitan, who's the enemy of Allah Ta'ala. Okay, so those who follow their desires and make their desires triumphant, in their hearts, to control others' feelings in the heart, their situation is similar to that. فانظر كيف يكون كفرانه لنعمته واستجابه لنقمته. And Ghazali says, look at his ungratefulness or denial of the grace of Allah Ta'ala. So Allah Ta'ala graced him with intelligence, and now look at what he's doing. He, instead of appreciating the gift, the divine gift, divine blessing, divine grace of reason, to use it to go on the right path, he's using that high faculty to satisfy hedonistic desires, and واستجابه لنقمته. So this makes him deserve the punishment of Allah Ta'ala. لأن الهوى أبغض إله عبد في الأرض عند الله تعالى. Because hawa, hedonistic desires, is the worst God worshipped on the face of the earth from the sight of Allah Ta'ala. So hawa, hedonistic desires, they are worshipped by people, And this is the worst God worshipped, worst false gods, false God worshipped on the face of the earth. والعقل أعز موجود خلق على وجه الأرض. And the reason is the most precious, most honorable, most noble creature of Allah Ta'ala on the face of the earth. So it is something really disgraceful to put this most precious, most honorable, most noble creature of Allah Ta'ala in the service of the lowest of the law, the false gods of Hawa. الحالة الثالثة, and the third state, in this relationship, أن يكون الحرب سجالا بين الجندين, that the war, the dialectic, the fight, the conflict is continuous between the two armies, the army of Aql and the army of Hawa. The fight would be continuous. فَتَارَةً لَهُ الْيَدُ عَلَيْهَا فَتَارَةً لَهَا عَلَيْهِ. So sometimes, reason, intelligence wins, and sometimes hedonistic desires win. وهذا من المجاهدين يعد مثله لا من الظافرين. وأهل هذه الحالة هم الذين خلطوا عملا صالحا وآخر سيئا عسى الله أن يتوب عليهم. So there's a constant fight, going on inside these people. So they are mujahids, they are warriors, but they are not triumphant ones. They have yet to triumph. So there's an inner struggle going on inside them. So they are mujahideen, not zafirin. And people at this state, they always mix good deeds with the bad deeds. There is no standard. There is no quality control. Sometimes they do good things, sometimes they do bad things. May Allah forgive them and accept their tawbah. هذا باعتبار القوة والضعف. So this is with respect to the power, strength and weakness of the sabr. Then Imam Ghazali will explain different types of sabr from other perspectives. Inshallah ta'ala, can continue reading in our next class. Okay, any questions? All right, it seems there is no question. So may Allah keep you safe and in good health, and may Allah help us make our reason, intelligence triumphant over our hedonistic desires. Jazakumullah khairan. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله
وعليكم السلام. Thank you very much, Hajam.
جزاكم الله خيرا.